Sometimes the most effective ways to get the word out are the low-tech methods. Like for instance, for this charrette for Columbia Pike, simply putting a banner over the highway lets the thousands of cars that go through there every day know about the upcoming event. This next section will discuss high-tech tools for outreach and engagement. By the time you read this, there will undoubtedly be a whole new set of tools available. It's such a rapidly changing field. We have chosen a few tools that we found to be solid and good charrette preparation and meeting engagement tools. I'd like to point out that there is such a thing as thin communication and thick communication. Thick communication occurs with people face to face in the same room, talking together, shared learnings. The type of communication that occurs in this environment is the best. Nonetheless, we can use high-tech tools that might have thinner communication, doesn't have all those attributes of a one-on-one face-to-face meeting, but nonetheless can be very helpful. The main thing we're looking for out of these tools is getting more people interested, informed, and engaged in the process and getting them to come to some meeting or to the charrette itself. Here are a few outreach tools. The most common means of communication for projects these days are websites. Almost every project has a website. Here's one that's made by Placemakers. I show it because it does a really good job at organizing information according to what's going on these days with the project, what has happened in the past, and some educational pieces. The website is connected to a Twitter feed, which gets the word out about meetings and proceedings that will happen to get people to the meetings. Here's a website for the PDX plan, or the Portland Community Plan, that just concluded recently. There was a website that used Facebook, Twitter, and all the usual social media outlets. Here's the Facebook page for PDX Plan. The Facebook, of course, gives you more opportunity to add more information, for people to jump in and make comments, to talk about the project in more depth. One of the great outcomes of the Facebook and the social media campaign for PDX Plan was seen here in Bullitt Ford. 31% of workshop attendees reported they were not public participation regulars. That means that the social media campaign has had a big effect on increasing the number of people who get involved with face-to-face workshops. A real win as far as NCI is concerned. Here's a tool called Open Town Hall, done by peakdemocracy.com. An example of Open City Hall was used in the city of Ashland, Oregon. Ashland, Oregon initially had a bulletin board on their city website for public conversation about different activities from the city. The problem was, increasingly, they had to devote a whole staff person to monitor this bulletin board, and it got to be tough on their budget. So they engaged Open City Hall, who creates a turnkey process by which they monitor the whole process and keep it civil. When you sign up to participate with this service, you have to agree to play by the rules of civil discourse, and Open Town Hall makes sure that that is enforced. More engagement tools. MetroQuest is a tool from MetroQuest.com. If you go to MetroQuest.com, you can try out their tool, but here's an example of one of the applications to a big project, the 750 project in Florida. This project presented different scenarios for people to consider, but the first thing that people did was they read information about the project and the scenarios. Number two, they picked priorities. What were their values for them? Number three, they got to see how the choices could play out according to their values, how the scenarios looked, and how the impact of the scenarios related to the values. This whole thing takes about 7 minutes for each engagement. CrowdGauge from crowdgauge.org. CrowdGauge is an online participatory tool that engages people in a similar way to MetroQuest, only it gets people to vote on what's important to them. So here's a page that starts with people setting their priorities. So the host has created some priorities here in the left-hand side, and when you go to CrowdGauge, you have so many stars to use, you can't vote fives on every one of these things. You have to decide what is important to you. And then you go to a learning tab where you learn more about the project and how it relates to your priorities. You actually get to talk about budgeting and how you would spend a certain number of coins on different budget decisions and how that relates to policies. So this is a very interesting learning and involvement tool for scenario planning. CrowdBright from crowdbright.com. If you go to Vision Las Vegas, you can take a run at this. But this is from the web page. It basically shows how people can provide input to the Vision Las Vegas. Number one is they explore an interactive map and answer questions. Number two, they take a quick visual survey. And number three, they can add their ideas to a map. Down in the middle there, you see that you click play for an audio overview, so there's some educational component to this before you get started. Another tool called WalkScope from walkscope.org. This is a tool that allows you to use your cell phone, your mobile phone, for walking surveys. Here's a person taking a picture of a street, and then she's going to weigh in on the sidewalk quality, intersection quality, number of pedestrians that she sees there. So this is a crowdsourcing device that allows data to be collected by people either in a orchestrated walk or just on their own time. This is a slide from a project in Denver that used WalkScope. It shows that over a few weeks, over 2,000 people participated in this, and it shows one person's post with their picture. WalkScope has a good back end that allows you to do analysis of the data. Some more crowdsourcing tools. StreetMix from streetmix.net. This is a very interesting tool because you can go straight to it and start to play around with different elements of your street section. It's an educational tool that teaches people that a street is only so big and you can only fit in so many things. So you begin to learn the trade-offs and your priorities on what you want to fit into the public right-of-way. And you can literally design this thing live on the website. BlockE from blockE.org, a similar kind of tool that allows you to grab a street view from Google Street View and then start to build what that street you'd like it to look like by using a palette of different street furnitures and striping and bike lanes and so forth. You can create your own picture on BlockE live time. Now here's a few tools for public meetings, in-person public meetings. Going back to CrowdBright, this is a tool that allows a group either in a room or people remotely on their iPads or phones or in the room on a computer to place ideas on any kind of map or picture that you want in forms of kind of a digital sticky note. So going into this, you grab a sticky note from the upper left-hand corner, drag it to where you want, tag it. You can do a geotag on it. You can add video. You can add comments. You could add pictures. You can vote on other people's ideas. It's a very robust, live-time crowdsourcing idea builder using any kind of background that you want to. This one particularly has the San Francisco, downtown San Francisco as a subject, but you can put any picture here to build upon it. So this is CrowdBrite again. The organization Place Matters, placematters.org, has a few tools for public meetings. One is called Brainstorm Anywhere, using touch tables. So here you see two people working in a community meeting with a touch table. That's a projector projecting the computer down onto the tabletop. And you can use a infrared pen to, as your mouse, to work this image on top of the tabletop. What you see here is basically a digital flip chart. And you can bring two different languages in as well. You make lists, you put them in categories, you can prioritize, you can have your start items. There's just a lot of different ways you can use this digitally to order ideas that are brought up in a meeting very quickly. Then there's Turning Point. Turning Point Polling from Turning Point Technologies. Many people know about this technology by now. It's where in meetings people are given small keypads and can vote instantly on questions that are on the screen in front of them. You can also use mobile device polling as well for this. There is a software, several softwares you can get to use in mobile phones as polling devices. So that concludes our overview of different high-tech tools that we found useful in charrette and charrette preparation. As I said, there are many more tools out there every day. You just have to get out there, test them, and see what works for you. But they can be very helpful in increasing the kind of participation for your project. Here we have Stakeholder Research Education Involvement Plan, a tool called Secondary Stakeholder Analysis. So all this really means is that when you are done toward the end of your stakeholder outreach, your interviews, your educational sessions, your social media, all the rest of it, it's important to go back to your initial stakeholder analysis that you did at the beginning of this course. You want to go back and revisit your assumptions that you had initially and make adjustments according to the information that you've received. So for instance, the fourth row down is a brand new viewpoint through a local swim club that is going to need one-on-one meetings for outreach strategies. And you can make other changes such as different wins, different involvement techniques, and so forth, depending on what you've heard. So just remember to make sure that you revisit your stakeholder analysis to do a secondary or tertiary stakeholder analysis as need be as you gain more information.